All right, hey kids. Chapter 2 in our conjugate method for arm wrestling. Today's chapter, Accommodating Resistance, is all about bands and chains. The terminology used in the book is a little confusing. As you remember, accommodation is when you stop making progress or hit plateaus because you've been lifting the weight the same way all the time. Accommodating resistance is how you don't get accommodation. So bear with me. It doesn't have to make literal sense. It just has to make lifting sense. This chapter is about bands and chains. Okay. And there's a few key points to pick up. One, the number one thing to pick up here is you cannot lift a heavy weight slowly. All right. You got to smash into the weight and you got to keep accelerating it. Heavy weights you have to lift fast as possible. Bands teach this. Chains teach it as well. Before we had bands, we had chains. Not we, I wasn't lifting that. And before chains, I think we had weight releasers. There's a lot of equipment. A lot of the power lifters still use this old stuff. Us as arm wrestlers, bands work out great. Bands feel like arm wrestling. They got a little give to them. You can smash into them like you can smash into somebody's arm. The other thing is, and this is not too common, but I got a question the other day. Somebody was asking me about finishing strength, like they can't end matches, pin matches, or whatever. I told them I'd never heard of finishing strength in arm wrestling, but bands fix that. Bands make the end of the movement harder than the beginning of the movement. So if you're training with bands anyways, finishing strength is not an issue. All right, page 2. Pow! Once again, buy this book. Every house should have 2 books. This is one of them. All right. It will absolutely help your training. Like I mentioned before, I've been using the conjugate system since early 2000s, 2003, 2004, but it was based on my understanding of the conjugate system by reading dozens and dozens of articles written by Louis Simmons in the 1990s and early 2000s. I can't access those articles anymore, and they were never actually put together in a coherent program. So we now have this book. This book it's confusing at points. That's one of the major things if you go to a message board or like Reddit or something, when the conjugate method comes up, there'll be several people mentioning that it's just complicated. I suppose it is. This is the only lifting system I know. But it was recommended to me by some very high-level power lifters in South Carolina. So, and it's worked for me. Okay, there might be other stuff out there that works, and you guys go do that if you want. This system works for me, and I kind of understand it. Okay, more terminology. Explosive strength. We kind of covered this in chapter 1. He says each Friday Westside runs week 1 at 30%. I don't think they do it each Friday, which is the speed strength for Scott, because I also think they use speed strength on Fridays, which is this. And this is one of the things that kind of picked up on. Speed days were kind of called like dynamic days in the articles. And it was, what I remember was it was like 50% of the weight plus bands. All right. Speed strength, which is what they use throughout now, is 75 to 80%. And this, sometimes they count the bands as weight, sometimes they don't. All right. Don't get hung up on. These are not mathematical laws. These are mathematical guidelines. Okay. So explosive strength, speed strength. This is what we do on our speed days. Strength speed. You gotta love this. Very, very low velocity. He does a strength speed and circumax are used interchangeably in the book. He does this 2 and 3 weeks out from a competition. If he sets a new circumax, which is utilizing almost 50% band tension, then if they hit their circumax weight, then they know or they feel like they're going to break a record in their powerlifting competitions. Isometrics, that's where the weight doesn't move, so it's 0 velocity. Once again, this is page 12. So just so you understand the background of the the Westside system, right? Max effort on squat on Monday, 2 exercises. Max effort for benching on Wednesday, 2 exercises. Friday, speed strength for the squat, that's a 3-week wave. Okay, 70, 75, 80 switch bars. 70, 75, 80 switch bars. Same for speed strength for the bench. Max effort days, you work up to a 1 rep max, 2 exercises. Okay, their speed strength days are 1 exercise. As I mentioned in chapter 1, I'm doing 2 on speed day. I think you should experiment and do what it is you feel you need to do. Okay, a few other things. This 0.8 meters per second, this is the bar speed. That comes from A.S. Prilipin's chart. I think he wrote a book like The Managing of Weightlifters or Coaching Weightlifters. So it's a very, very famous book. I haven't read it because I rely on Louis to read those books and give it to me. And this explosive strength, I don't do this as part of my speed day. I do it as a completely separate day. We arm wrestlers, we're training our arms, right? So we're training like 50 to 100 pounds of weight. Those power lifters, they're squatting 6, 7, 800 pounds. They're benching 5, 6, 700 pounds. They're moving a lot more weight than we are. They have more recovery problems than we do. As arm wrestlers, we can train a lot harder with a lot higher percentages than power lifters can just because we're using smaller weights. All right. Compensatory acceleration training. Oh, this is it. Okay. You cannot lift a heavy weight slowly. All right. This is very, very true. You get to a really, really heavy weight, you got to just apply maximum force to it the whole time. Bands teach you this. I think chains teach you this too, but bands for certain they do teach you that. So to get to compensatory acceleration training or to accommodating resistance, page 26 is called the combination of resistance method. Like I said, bands and chains. Bands and chains, bands and chains, bands and chains. I should get a tattoo that says I heart bands. Bands will completely change your arm wrestling training. You need bands. You absolutely need bands. If you can deal with chains, get chains too. They won't hurt. But bands are just so convenient. I can travel with bands. I throw my 2 purple bands in my bag when I'm traveling. That's my light workouts during the week when I'm preparing for the match, and it's my warm-up exercises prior to an hour before the match. All right, so this is his formula for chains. Speed strength, which is 75 to 85% of 1 rep max. So a 600-pound squatter, 150 pounds of chain. Think about that. 150 pounds of chains are on the bar, plus 360 total. So that's 510. So that's his 85% of 600. We counted the chain weight in this example. Here's why do I have for strength speed? Okay, speed, strength, speed. This is 90%. So sorry, I was going, did I write the same thing twice? I did not. So now 300 pounds, like I said, fit for his Circa Max, strength, speed, and Circa Max, 50% is chains. So 300 pounds of chains. Where do you have a closet that stores 300 pounds of chains? Then you throw 270 up, so you're doing 570 total weight for a 600-pound squatter. So that's your 95%. But 50. So when you start at the 270, most of this 300 pounds, probably 2/3 of it's not even on the bar. So the bar starts fast. When you get near the top, when that 300 pounds starts kicking in, the weight goes up, the bar slows down, that forces you to accommodate that. Accommodating resistance and lift the bar faster because you cannot lift a heavy weight slowly. All right, here's some more examples on doing the math for, this is powerlifting math for bands. Still the same kind of thing. Got a 400-pound bencher. So he's using 21% bands, 235 in a bar, 80% of, totals of 320. Circa max. So we said 50%, right? Well, 42% is what we're going to do on this Circa max. And then the 1,000-pound this example comes up again later. All right. And I think we use a different proportion, but 44% is about 50%. And so is 42%. Like I said, it's not a math quiz. They're mathematical guidelines, not mathematical rules. I hope I got some arm wrestling examples in this chapter for you. But I'm also saving you from having to read that book. Special strengths again. We covered all of this on the first page of this video. He just listed them again. I almost think the book is a compilation of all the articles. I think they stuck all the articles in the book and then edited like introductory and transition phases between the two, because some of the chapters go off topic and snap back again. But anyways, okay, by constantly making changes in velocity, varying band tension, varying chain tension, the body will not accommodate and will continue to adapt to stimuli. It'll get stronger. This is the conjugate system, continually going from one intensity, one speed, but constantly rotating without breaking the training stimulus. So remember, constantly changing. Conjugate method, constantly changing. Adding bands and chains in the arsenal of training methods, and training at every velocity will eliminate the law of accommodation. I added plateaus. By changing special barbell exercises, it's just more changes. 3-week waves for explosive strength or speed strength. See, explosive strength is not speed strength. But I think they run the explosive waves for both, because explosive is 25% and speed strength. Explosive is the 40%, 35 to 40, and speed strength is 70 to 80. But don't worry about that. Okay? You need more bands to teach you to lift weights faster. And I almost think one thing that I think when you start messing around with this is you'll find out that arm wrestlers can probably handle higher band tensions than power lifters can, because our weight's so much smaller and we're moving the weight a shorter distance. I found myself using a lot higher band percentages than what the articles recommended. Okay, here's some practical information, although you may or may not be able to use it yourself. But on my pulley machine at my house with my wrist wrench, okay, the purple jump stretch band is 22 pounds at full pull. That's when my wrist wrench hits the opposite peg, because I pull peg to peg. The green jump stretch band is 34, and this bungee cord that I buy at Home Depot is 44 pounds. These are a lot. The force distance curve on these bands is a lot stiffer than these two. These are very givey at the bottom. These ramp up pretty quick. They're also like $8. Okay, and it's so much easier to attach to your machine. I mentioned I think you can use a lot higher band tension. I usually start with his recommendation, and for like speed strength days, I start with his recommendation, but I find myself adding plates, because I can lift usually a higher percentage of the weight than what he recommends, and I'm still lifting fat, and I can usually increase the band tension quite a bit too. I don't get crazy. I don't go from like 30% to 50%, but if he recommends 22 to 30%, I'm more like 35, 45%. And this is something, look, if y'all got the chains and you can train with the chains, chains, I'm all for you. But to me, I find them expensive. Like 300 pounds of chain's expensive. Then you got to cut it into small sections to use it. It's heavy, it's awkward, it's hard to attach to the bar. I messed around with chains for like weeks in my 20 years of using the conjugate method, and I became a band fan real fast, and chains to me, they belong in museums. But I don't want to hurt your power lifters. You power lifters, you go crazy with your chains and your weight releasers and all that other stuff. But as an arm wrestler, bands are doing just fine for me, man. I would do, as a matter of fact, for years I didn't even have a pulley machine. I had a dozen of these black bands attached to the wall, and I would do max days and speed days with zero dead weight, all 100% band tension. It teaches you to be fast. It teaches you to be reactive. Man, I need to get back to that. I need to do like a 2-week 100% band wave. Oh, I so look forward to seeing what this workout looks like in 6 or 8 weeks. I need a band. The other thing I need is, like I said, the Bulgarians they max out just about every day. I'm thinking that 3 weeks out from a competition, do a 1-week Bulgarian weightlifting thing. Max out each workout for a week and then cut down. But we'll get to delayed transformation in the future. I thank you for joining us. Call your mom, do your JM presses. Stick around. Chapter 3 should be out directly. Bye, kids.